Hey guys, we're moving into the fourth lesson of our series on navigating family conflict. And I'm not going to do my joke that I do every week. If you don't have conflict, you don't have family. Well, there I did it. I didn't really need to do it. So we've done Cain and Abel, the very first family conflict, right? Abraham and Lot. We did last week Isaac and Rebekah, and this week we're going to continue the story from last week. We're going to jump ahead 20 years from the time that we left last week to go, and we're going to be with Jacob and Esau. And all these stories are out of Genesis, and this is about, as it says, we're navigating family conflict. We're looking in the Bible to see how to, sometimes to and sometimes not to, handle family conflict, right? So this week we're talking about Jacob and Esau. Family rivalry showing humility is critical to restoring a broken relationship. And y'all know how big I am on humility. Humility is, as I said a million times, and I'll say it again, so y'all just get used to it. Anytime you see it show up, to me, it's the most important attribute you can have. You have to be first of all, to be able to be saved. You have to be humble enough to realize that you're a sinner, that you need saving. And if you can't get to that point, you can't get to the rest of it, right? So anyway, so I feel like humility is the first thing. And humility also is a very strong sign of your growth in Christ, right? So that's humility is huge. So showing humility is critical to restoring a broken relationship. Genesis 27, 35 through 37, and then 41. And then we're going to do Genesis 33, 1, 4 through 8, and then Genesis 33, 8 through 11. Did you write all that down? All right, here we go. Questions. Question number 1. Who are some siblings from movies or TV that you found entertaining? Since we're all about the same age in here, we're probably all got the same ones. But let's see what y'all got. See if y'all can remember any of them. That's the big thing, right? Tarzan? Was he a sibling? Yeah. Tarzan and the monkeys. The Waltons, right, y'all? Good night, John. Huh? Yeah, I didn't put them down. Hey, yeah, the Cartwrights. Yeah. I got the Brady's down. I got the Brady's and the Partridge Family down. Well, I got the Waltons down. Good job. Yeah, all those are great. I put down the Robertsons, although that's not back when, like the Duck Dynasty guys. I like those guys. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, right. Danger Will Ride. Well, I like them too. Now you say that.
If you try to watch it now,
Yeah. Well, somebody redid that Lost in Space, and they did. It was on Netflix or Prime or something like that. It was a lot different. It wasn't quite the cheesy show that it was, and they did. Careful, hey, new Christmas present right there, buddy. Right?
Who they get to play the doctor?
Well, it was different. It was a whole completely different setup. They didn't. They had what's that? Posey? What's her name? The actor Posey. She was the name. I'll try to look it up and tell you later. But God, I wish I could remember the name. But she was kind of like that doctor character that always got him in trouble. But somehow or another they didn't kick him out. I never did. I was always the kid that was sitting there. Why do y'all even take that guy with you anywhere? I'd just leave him somewhere. Parker Posey. Look her up. Parker Posey is who it was. I can't even believe I remember that. How do I remember that? All right. So anyway, all that's the stuff. Lost in Space. It's completely. But I mean, I like those guys too. So anyway, the idea there, if we look at our Bible Meets Life, it says perhaps we've heard of the oft-quoted statement, friends may come and go, but enemies accumulate. And that's very true. The statement rings true for Jacob. He lived much of his life as a swindling con man. Nearly all of Jacob's relationships involved conflict. And, of course, we looked at what his mom and daddy did to him when he was growing up and figure out why, right? no conflict was more profound than that with Esau. These two brothers hated each other in different ways. Jacob expressed his pride and rivalry against Esau using mental warfare. He needled him and schemed to get his birthright, and then schemed with his mom to steal Esau's blessing. And Esau responded with a boisterous and hatred threats. One of them was a little more psychological, one a little more physical, but they both expressed their hatred in different ways. To make matters worse, their parents, Isaac and Rebekah, fed the fire of their rivalry. So, as grown men, now we're going to find out this time. Yeah. Oh, if you want, just read Genesis. Just read Genesis. I mean, it makes Dallas look like nothing. I'm telling you, man. You got wives telling their husbands to have babies with their concubines so that they. I mean, seriously, it's all. It's all out. Genesis. I mean, there's a reason why this whole series is coming out of Genesis, because there's a lot of dysfunction, family dysfunction in Genesis. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, JR and Bobby. Yeah, that's right. So, as grown men, these guys would be in what could have resulted in the death of one or both of them. And both of these brothers, who were twins, desired to dominate the other. One felt entitled by birth, and the other felt entitled because he had bartered, swindled, and outwitted the other. Betrayal and treachery nearly collided with deaths because the sibling rivalries between Jacob and Esau. Nearly. They did not quite get to that point, and we're going to find out why in our lesson today. So, next question. Why is showing humility, especially during family conflict, difficult to do? Why is it hard to show humility?
Because of your pride.
Pride, yes. It's hard to turn loose of that. And I put too much baggage. I mean, when you've lived with somebody all their lives, right? You know all the stuff they've done to you all this time. And although we may forgive, we don't forget sometimes. And it just piles up after a while. I put too much back. We carry all these things around that happened over years, and it makes us less willing to give in to them, right? I mean, that's the truth, and that goes with people. But because family is so close, because we're kind of bound to each other, whether we want to be or not, we have to deal with each other, and so that was my answer to that. Anybody else have any thoughts on that before we move on?
Well, Satan's right in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah.
Don't give in. Don't you give in.
Yeah. You going to let him get away with that? I had one of those friends. You going to let him get away with that?
That's the reason we have to pray to our Father to help us in that situation.
Right. And that's why practicing humility in all situations, I mean, we have to be prepared all the time, right? We have to be prepared for these situations. And practicing humility all the time puts us in a position to do that. So feeling like you're getting the short end of the stick can lead to hard feelings towards others. Relationships can be damaged easily. And believers are to model Christ-likeness and humility toward one another, and especially family members. So that's the lead up to the first set of verses, which is Genesis 27:35 through 37, and then 41 right there at the end. But he replied, "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing." So he said, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob? For he has cheated me twice now. He took my birthright, and look, now he has taken my blessing." Then he asked, "Haven't you saved a blessing for me?" But Isaac answered Esau, "Look, I have made him a master over you, and have given him all of his relatives as his servants, and have sustained him with grain and new wine. What then can I do for you, my son?" Esau held a grudge against Jacob because the blessing his father had given him. And Esau determined in his heart, "The days of mourning for my father are approaching, and then I will kill my brother Jacob." So why does deception of family members hurt so much? Why does it hurt so much? I mean, we get deceived by people all the time, right? I mean, good night. We've been going through an election cycle. We're getting deceived everywhere, every time somebody starts talking. But I mean, why does deception of family hurt so much?
Because they're your brother or sister, mom and dad. I mean, love, you love the most.
Right. Do y'all think maybe it's because we're supposed to be able to trust them? I mean, they're our family, right? That's what you're saying. They're our family. We're supposed to be able to trust them. And usually their deceptions, the one thing I thought of that's different about that, about maybe a different kind of answer is because their deception usually hurts more than just us. It hurts other people that we love, other family members. That might be why. Those are two things I came up with. I don't know if anybody's got anything different maybe, but I mean, when deception of family members it hurts all the people that we love because all of our family we love. And we're just not as willing to put up with that. The setting today, of course, last week was the setting for this week. The deception that Rebekah and Jacob put together to get Isaac to give Jacob the blessing instead of Esau worked. Esau is ticked off about it. He's not happy about it. And Jacob leaves. He escapes his brother's wrath. And then we come to where we are now with this, which basically is Isaac is about to die. And Esau is trying somehow or another to get some kind of blessing. And Esau's like, I'm sorry. It is what it is. And that's where we are now. So in the commentary, verse 35, he came deceitfully. Treacherous or deceitful speech. This is, the word here is falsely weighted scales, right? I mean, does that give you an idea what we're talking about? One of the most detestable sins in the Old Testament, according to this commentary, is deceit. Acting deceitfully wrecks relationships, and we can see that here. In verse 36, he is rightly named Jacob. The perceived meaning of Jacob's name is a play on Hebrew words for heel and cheated. Jacob lives up to his name. He is as the Bible Meets Life said, he's a con man. He will absolutely swindle you right out of your shoes. Verse 36 to 38, a blessing for me, ? Do you have only one blessing? Esau's question reflects a pitiable sense of desperation. You kind of feel sorry for the guy here, right? His dad's dying. Although his character was not that great, he has lost out on what was really rightfully his. And now his dad's dying, and he's got nothing. He's got nothing of the birthright and blessing that really should be his. Esau's question reflects this pitiable sense of desperation. Isaac's blessing of Jacob was effective, irrevocable, and the Lord had ordained, because the Lord had ordained it. There was going to be no way that Isaac could back out on it. Because as we talked about last week, Isaac is giving a blessing that goes way beyond just a regular family blessing. They all know what God has promised them. They all know what their descendants are going to be, right? And so the blessing he's given to Jacob is the blessing of being the father of God's people. And once you give that, God's not, you're just not going to be taking it back. So one thing for us to take from Jacob taking Esau's blessing is that we must beware of those who seek to deprive us of the deceptive practices from the blessings the Lord has for us. The world is full of people out there who are going to try to steal our blessings from us. And they try to drag us into the dirt, into the mud with them. And they try to get us to act unhumbly, without humility, to react the way that they are acting towards us. And I'm not perfect about this, y'all, but I'm just saying out loud the part about we have to be careful of letting our reaction to other people make us lose our blessings that God has for us, and letting them, and even other deceptions that people can use. So what are some ways people can steal our blessings, the blessings that the Lord has for us? Anybody got any thoughts on that? I threw that down there. That wasn't in the book. Any thoughts on that? I mean, one thing is, like I talked about, they can drag us into the mud. They can cause us to act the way they're acting. That's one thing they can do. Is there any other things you can think of?
I think of like hatred or bitterness toward those people.
Yeah.
Like we said before.
Yeah.
It's hurting us. It's not necessarily hurting them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, really, that's the biggest thing, is getting us to act like they're acting. And you know, and we're supposed to be the light in this world. We're supposed to be able to deflect that. But that's all easy to say, but it ain't easy to do. And unless we're, like I was saying a while ago, none of this stuff is going to be easy, but it's a lot easier if you're ready for it. Don't wait to react. Go ahead and be prayed up. Go ahead and be practicing humility in all parts of your life. Go ahead and practice think about how you would handle a situation. If you can, you know, and that way, whenever it happens, especially when you know you're fixing to be on Thanksgiving with a bunch of family members and y'all all can't get along, right? And you fight amongst each other, and you know that old Uncle Bobby's going to come in talking politics and religion, and he's going to get on your nerves, and y'all don't need to be fighting at Thanksgiving dinner this year, right? Like last. Oh, is that your 4th of July? Well, yeah, I use Thanksgiving because it just happens to be coming up. But anyway, it's still Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July. It doesn't matter wherever you and your family decide that it's best to fight. Y'all, you go ahead and get ready for it. You know Uncle Bob's coming. You know he's gonna get on your nerves. Go find another. What I used to do is I go find a corner somewhere where nobody is and try to hide from everybody. But
Lisa just goes outside.
yeah, go outside. Yeah, if you can get outside, go outside. If you can go find a corner, or I'll sit in front of the TV and just stare at it and act like I can't hear. You know, but no. But seriously, we have to be ready for that. We can't just go into it and say, okay, I'm just, you know, and not be prepared how to react. Also remember that Esau is all pitiful now, but we have to remember he was so prideful before that he gave away his birthright. He gave it away for a bowl of stew. So, I mean, he played fast and loose with his birthright, and ultimately it cost him all the blessing that his father had for him. So that's the pride part of this that we have to be careful about. Our pride can be the biggest downfall, and that's the reason why they're saying pride goeth before the fall, right? So verse 37, he's made him master over you. Isaac does not have good news for Esau here, y'all. This looks back at the Lord's words to Rebekah. God had told Rebekah she would have 2 nations in her womb. One would serve the other. In the history of their descendants, Edom, which came from Esau, and Israel from Jacob, Edom repeatedly submitted to Israel. Also, spiritual dominance would belong to Israel because the Messiah, Jesus Christ, was a descendant of Israel. So, what the Lord told Rebekah was true, and what Isaac is telling him here reflects that. In that the blessing that has happened has made him a master over you. Verse 41 held a grudge. He hated. Deep-seated anger that can result in violent retaliation is what that word is. It is the tragic results that flow from an unforgiving heart. And finally, on verse 41, the days of mourning are approaching. Isaac was about to die. He's going to be about 180 years old at this point. Esau had sworn he'd kill Jacob once their father was dead. So why? I mean, I guess this is kind of an easy one to answer, or maybe one of those, why would you even ask it? But why did Esau have such strong feelings toward Jacob? I mean, we know what Jacob had done to him, but is there any other thing we can think of that would feed into those strong feelings? I mean, I know that's kind of, like I said, it's kind of a redundant, like a question, why would you even ask it? I think the time that has passed, we don't know exactly. It's like about 20 years. And the fact that he's the one that's been there with Isaac all this time. So there's other reasons why his hatred had probably grown over that time, right? That's what I was thinking in asking that question.
Well, Esau too, but like you said, he didn't go after him right away. I mean, he's going to wait till his daddy died because, you know, that means he didn't want his daddy to suffer anymore.
Right. This loss of his son, right?
Yeah.
I think that's betrayal by family members sometimes.
It stings, boy. Yeah. And every time you see your dad and your mom, you think about it. I mean, he's had to relive that whole thing for 20 years. It's probably festered pretty good over the time, right?
You know, family members, I mean, what's the old saying? They can push your buttons because they help install buttons.
That's exactly right. I had never heard that one. That's pretty good. Yeah, they know where they are. They put them in there. Yeah. Another question, why is selfishness so destructive in family relationships?
Because you're thinking more about yourself than you are your brother or your sister.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. We, the family's the one we're supposed to, I mean, we're, if you think about it from a biblical standpoint, we're supposed to serve. We're supposed to love each other. And our families are supposed to be the first people we serve and love. But we end up, from the human perspective, they end up getting on our nerves worse than anybody else that we deal with. And when we're and I'll go back to what I said a minute ago. When they're selfish, it hurts. When my brother or sister is selfish, it hurts my mom, right? And that really is what gets me, And that's don't take that to mean my family, because we haven't had that problem. But not that there's never been any problems, but we don't have that problem. But I mean, just using that as an example, it can be any family member. It can be a parent being selfish and hurting a brother or sister that I love. It can run the gamut of relationships. So a quick recap: Esau was left with a devastating loss. He's betrayed by his brother. His anger rose to a fever pitch. He felt justified in what he planned to do next, which is murder Jacob. He finna kill him. But Esau would wait until his father died, then he would strike. The loss of the blessing, including the whole process of betrayal by his mother and brother, was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. Always remember that holding a grudge, remember this, is self-destructive. This is what we're saying. This is what we've been saying all along in this lesson. And I think that this whole lesson series tells us, if nothing else, we need to learn to let this stuff go. Because it ain't hurting anybody but us. I'm sorry I keep using the word ain't. Sarah's been on me. She got on me real bad She got on me real bad about it last night. But I'm still going to use it. She acted like I've never said it before. I can say a whole lot worse than that, right? So even if you can't forgive someone because you don't think they deserve it, forgive them because you deserve it. All right? Forgive them because your grudge is only hurting you. And so really, if we don't come out of this maybe a year from now, we talk about, hey, y'all remember that navigating family conflict that we did? What's the number one thing we remember from it? Let it go. And I'm not talking about Frozen either. I'm talking let go. Sarah says true about that. That's the ain't. Let it go. Don't hold the grudge. Anybody else got anything on Genesis?
The lesson brought out too that Esau may have been what he did inherit. He may have been scared if he'd done anything too drastic or whatever. He wouldn't get what little part he was supposed to.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, exactly. And of course, yeah, that's right.
And I don't think it helped that the parents showed the
Man.
I mean, the father, he was very favored toward Esau. The mother for Jacob. Well, now Esau's losing his father. So he has no allies anymore in the family unit. So
No.
it's him against them now.
Right. That's it. Yeah. I mean, it's they like I said, we were talking a minute ago. That family dysfunction. You read Genesis. You don't have to go watch Dallas or anything else. Just read Genesis. It's
I watched the old one. I don't watch the new one.
well, either one. They use Genesis as the notes for their plot line. I can promise you that.
Rebecca also thought God needed some help.
Yeah.
She knew that he doesn't prophesy stuff. The younger, the older would serve the younger, so she already knew when it had been interested if they had done anything right, how God would work that.
Yeah, that's another lesson we can learn. God does not need our help. Okay, God does not need our help, and when we try to help Him, we usually make things worse. So just remember that. All right, Genesis 33, 1-4 says, Now Jacob looked up and saw Esau coming toward him with 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two slave women. He put the slaves and their children first, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph last. He himself went on ahead and bowed to the ground 7 times until he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet him, hugged him, threw his arms around him, and kissed him, and then they wept. Jacob was unsure how Esau would respond after so many years. It seems to me pretty interesting. These guys just completely shut each other off. They hadn't seen or heard nothing from each other. So All Jacob can remember is the last time he saw Esau, and all Esau can remember is the last time he saw Jacob. And if Esau is no more mad, he still wants to kill Jacob, right? Because he wanted to kill him when he left to start with. So it had been 20 years since Jacob left and ran away from Esau. So how do you think old Jacob felt when he saw Esau coming with 400 men at that point?
Scared to death.
Yeah.
Thought he was gonna get killed.
Yeah. He was already, we got to remember, and I'll talk about it here in just a minute, he just wrestled with God right just before this part right here. And so things were changing for Jacob at this point. And he was he was already a different person because of that. And he was already dreading what was going to happen. But he knew he had to handle it. He knew he had to deal with it. And so that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing here. Somebody please read the paragraph on 132 that starts choosing humility.
Choosing humility in the intervening chapters from chapter 27 forward, we learn that with his mother's assistance, Jacob fled his homeland to escape the consequences of the deceitful acts toward his father Isaac and brother Esau. Did Rebekah realize that she would never see this beloved son again? Perhaps she thought Jacob's departure would provide the fickle Esau a cooling off period, and before long Jacob could return. It did not happen that way. Jacob was gone 20 years, and apparently Rebekah died before his return. Did she later think about how divisive her favoritism and plotting had become?
Yeah. So it goes on in your book to explain that Jacob had gone to Haran to live with Rebekah's brother Laban. The two of them took turns at cheating each other. It's all pretty good stuff if you want to read it. But Jacob did come out of it with 2 wives, both of them Laban's daughters. Came out of it with 2 slave women who he had children. And with these 4 women, he had 12 children at that point. And a lot of stuff. He'd come out there with a lot of livestock and the things that made you wealthy in those days. Jacob was a wealthy man. God had blessed him, right? Quick recap. After years of estrangement, Jacob was about to encounter Esau. Would Esau let bygones be bygones? There's no reason to think that he would at that point. Or had Esau's rage increased over the decades, which I think we find that he's at least as bad as he was, if not more. Their parents nurtured the difficulties by showing favoritism. We've talked about that. They equally embraced the dysfunction from years ago. These rivals suffered a total breakdown in their relationship. Before they could experience reconciliation, there was some deeply spiritual groundwork Jacob had to face. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. Commentary. A lot had happened over those 20 years, and as I said, Jacob came out of it with a lot of stuff and family. When he saw Esau coming, he tried to protect his possessions and his wealth. He lined everybody and everything up in order of priority, didn't he? He put Rachel and Joseph at the back, which was his favorite wife, and his favorite son. He didn't learn a single thing about how his mom and daddy had made favorites, and that's going to end up costing Joseph. But in the long run, it's going to help Joseph. I mean, it's all the way it all works out. But so he lines everybody up. He puts the slave women and their kids first, so that if these guys are going to attack, they're going to get them first, and maybe by the time they get to Rachel, and I guess maybe by the time they get to Rachel and Joseph, if they're going to attack, they'll be tired or something. I don't know what he's thinking, but anyway, he's got them all the way to that.
Run, I guess.
One thing we'll talk about here in just a minute. One thing one of the preachers I listened to this morning said that was pretty interesting was Jacob has changed, y'all, because after he did all that, he went out front. Right? He went out front. So that's where we start seeing a change in Jacob, right? And this all comes on the heels of the whole wrestling with God thing. That's in verse 32 if you guys want to read it. It tells you a lot about what happened and why Jacob finally changed the way he did. First of all, he ran into his uncle, who was a very good version of himself, so he got a good dose of his own medicine, which helped him out. But then that wrestling with God on the way back to visit to see Esau really made a difference. So a lot happened over those 20 years. When he saw Esau coming, he tried to protect his possessions because he wasn't sure of Esau's intention. And as part of the journey, he found that the only way to prevail with God, this is talking about the chapter 32 where he wrestled with God. On part of this journey was he had found out that the only way to prevail with God was by yielding to God, right? And so he would also need to yield to Esau as well. It's a lot like repenting from your sins. Esau was the big sin in Jacob's life. He had to repent from that he had to yield to the Esau, a person that he had never yielded to at all. He had to do that in order to show that, in order to continue to grow in his relationship with God. It was a metaphor for the two. Esau was almost a metaphor for God in his life in that relationship. Verse 1, divided the children. So we talked about it. Jacob placed his children with their respective mothers. It was a defensive measure. He organized the groups to reflect his preference for them. And ultimately, Rachel was in the back. I just think that's pretty funny. Verse 3, he bowed 7 times. So he got out front. Not only did he get out front and put himself first in front, he bowed 7 times. This demonstrated a degree of respect that was unparalleled in Scripture. 7 is the number of complete perfection. He bowed to the ground to demonstrate hospitality or service, humility, humble entreaty, or worship. He emphasized his willingness to subordinate himself to Esau. Nobody had ever seen that from him for sure. In verse 4, he ran rushing. That this is Esau, a surprising response from Esau. It heightens the contrast between Jacob's fears and Esau's demonstration of forgiveness. In verse 4, he hugged and kissed him. To embrace or to fold, that's what the Hebrew word is. This common gesture in the patriarchal world, that's a good word for me to say, could signify friendship, acceptance, respect, and or reverence. Proverbs 24:26 says, he who gives an honest answer gives a kiss on the lips. That's kind of what we're talking about. So somebody please read 134. It starts, we have a clue about. Is that right?
Yeah. We have a clue about the change of heart shown by Jacob, verses 22 to 32. But we don't know what led to the change in Esau. Nevertheless, 2 brothers broke down the walls that separated them. With humility, they gave themselves over to each other and thereby initiated the process of rebuilding a broken relationship, salving the hurt with tears of remorse and compassion.
So, I'm always a what if guy. You know, what if, I can look at the Bible and what if my way. Of course, God's sovereign, he's going to have his way, right? And this is all part of his will. But what if Esau had reacted differently? I mean, you know, we could go through a long scenario on that. What if Jacob hadn't come with humility? You know, all these things happen because these people basically, as we said just a minute ago, they gave themselves over to the Lord. They yielded to the Lord. And because Jacob yielded to the Lord, he used humility. Esau was able to save face at the very least. We don't know why he's acting the way he is. We don't know if God supernaturally got a hold of him and made him all of a sudden, because we found out that, you know, I'm not even sure how long it was between when Isaac died and Jacob came back. So maybe there was time after that he was able to reflect. Who knows why all this happened?
Well, somewhere said Isaac lived another 100 years.
But he didn't live 100 years. Did he not die?
I think, yeah, he was 100 when the birthright got stolen.
Yeah, he was 100, yeah. So, okay, he lived another 50 or 60 years after that. That's right. Yeah, Isaac was always dying. Y'all ever notice that? He always thought he was about to die. So anyway, I'm sorry I didn't have that proper. But anyway, at the end of the day, why did Esau react the way he did. I mean, we just saw him saying, I'm going to kill him. But now he runs and meets him with love in his heart and hugs him. And so what are some ways to display humility to those we have hurt or wronged? Let's say we're in Jacob's position. And maybe it's not a culture where bowing 7 times is really that big a deal like he did. So what are some ways, if we've hurt somebody, that we can display humility to them?
Tell them you're sorry.
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I've had some conflicts over the years, and I found it's just the best thing. It's just to face it and just go to the person and be willing to accept whatever. I can't control their reaction, but I can always control how I come to them and come to them with complete humility. So, anybody else have any thoughts on that? How we can show humility to those we've hurt or wronged? Well, for Jacob, he bowed 7 times, and like bowing before the Lord or a king, before meeting Esau as an act of humility, his humility put Jacob in the spiritual place where the Lord would bless him. He no longer hid behind any family member. Like I said, he jumped out front, right? Jacob met his brother in the reality of his vulnerability. All right?
He just didn't kneel, he laid out.
Yeah, he prostrated himself. The humility of his new trust in the Lord and his new name, Israel. Jacob was a different person. And he was starting that walk to be more faithful, because obviously he had not been super faithful in so far up until that.
Somewhere there about where you wrestled God all night.
Yeah, 32.
Yeah.
That's verse 30. That's chapter 32. But Esau, without another thought, ran to meet him, hugged him, and kissed him. And once Jacob realized Esau no longer held animosity toward him, they wept in their sweet reunion. Displaying humility is the necessary step to build relationships. You can't build relationships without humility. You can't go into any relationship thinking you're the number one, you're the best, you're everything and to whoever else you got the relationship with. You have to come with at least on equal standing with people, and usually you need to come willing to serve with humility. And so that's where we're at. Anybody got anything to add on that before we go to 33, 8 through 11? All right. Genesis 33, 8 to 11. So Esau said, "What do you mean by this whole procession I met? To find favor with you, my Lord," he answered. "I have enough, my brother," Esau replied. "Keep what you have." But Jacob said, "No, please. I have found favor with you. If I have found favor with you, take this gift from me. For indeed, I have seen your face, and it is like seeing God's face, since you have accepted me. Please take my present that was brought to you, because God has been gracious to me, and I have everything I need." So Jacob urged him until he accepted. Man, Jacob's done a 180 on us, y'all. He is completely giving God credit for everything. I mean, he's just a completely different person at this point than we've seen before. Not that he's going to be perfect, by the way. He's still going to treat Joseph better than the brothers, and all that's going to happen. But we're not. Anybody in here perfect? Raise your hand. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure nobody's delusional in the room today. All right. So a recap. Taking a breath after the initial emotions of their reunion, Jacob introduced his family. Jacob had staged his interest by sending him gifts and having his family bow before Esau as both an act of humility and to formally impress on Esau his hope that their reunion would not be affected by their toxic past. So what do you think Esau would have noticed different about Jacob than the last time that they met?
His humility.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was definitely it. Yeah, he's definitely humble. He's definitely willing to serve. He's definitely willing to, he's almost trying to give a blessing to Esau, right? I mean, he took Esau's blessing and he's sending all these presents, almost like he's like, here, this is kind of the blessing that maybe somehow or another, like a piece of that blessing back that he took. I think Jacob was more like Esau too. He had worked hard at this point. You know, before he'd stayed in the tents. That's the way he was described. But now he'd been out there. He'd been out there in the world. He'd been out there and worked and with the flocks. And he was a little more like Esau, right? Also, obviously, Jacob was not seeking to deceive him, or at least as far as he knew he wasn't, and was much more humble. So we as believers, sorry?
I think it's uncle deceiving him, sort of got a dose of something.
I think the dose of his own medicine was a big part of his journey, of his change. There's no doubt about it. And man, them two went at it. They were. It was like a championship belt match of deceivers, buddy. When them two went at it, they were good. So we as believers can demonstrate. You know, a really important part here is that we can demonstrate graciousness as a demonstration of God's nature of grace towards us, right? It's returning the graciousness that God's given to us. In the commentary, verse 8, the whole procession, Jacob had sent 3 groups of animals ahead of him to appease Esau. There had been explanations sent with these gifts, but the size of the gift may have prompted Esau's question. Of course, Esau doesn't know there's any difference in Jacob. As far as Esau knows, Jacob's coming and he's going to try to cheat him out of what he got now. I mean, that's what their relationship's been, right? Verse 8, my Lord. The title Lord is not like Yahweh here, but this Lord is a title of respect. My brother. Esau responded with the words, my brother, showing a peaceful spirit and a warm emotion, not a hostile spirit as Jacob had feared. In verse 10, this gift, for Jacob, the sign of his acceptance with God was Esau's acceptance of his gift. As I said, it's kind of a metaphor for him. All this dealings with Esau is parallel to his dealings with God, if you look at it. And so for Esau to accept his gift is like God accepting that he has changed in his the change of his heart and with God as well. Was Jacob, and as I said, was Jacob actually offering Esau a blessing in exchange for the one he had stolen? You know, I think there's probably a little bit of that going on. In his heart, I think Jacob was offering that to God. You know, since all this is a good parallel. I think in his mind, by offering that to Esau, he was offering it to God. In verse 10, he talks about seeing your face, seeing God's face. This indicates Jacob's perception of Esau as the counterpart to the man with whom he had wrestled, which was God. We know that. In chapter 32, he had received a blessing from God in that interaction. In some way for Jacob, the forgiving face of Esau was kind of like the blessing face of God. You know, all of this conflict that he's been in conflict with his brother, with his uncle, with his parents, and with God. And all this conflict he's been in, and now he has his chance to go to the biggest one, and here's Esau with this forgiving face, and it's almost like you can see God blessing him in that face. It's pretty strong stuff if you think about it. Verse 11, God has been gracious. God had been gracious to him. It's from a Hebrew word that means to have compassion. Heartfelt response of someone who has something to give to a person who has a need is an action of someone in a superior position to an individual who cannot expect to be treated with grace. Jacob had no reason to be expected to be treated with grace, but that's put Esau in a special position to be able to give grace. And so a recap here is, as a result of Esau's affectionate words to his brothers, Jacob wanted more than ever to bless Esau with gifts. But it seems this time Jacob offered the gifts not for appeasement, but from a heart of brotherly love. And so these guys they've got a completely new relationship. So when Esau told Jacob to keep what he had, he showed us what a person says when they have rightly let go of the past. So we talk about having problems, and one of the reasons that we can't be humble sometimes in family conflicts is because we can't let go of the past. But what we're seeing here Because these two guys are letting go of the past. I mean, this is sure enough burying the hatchet without killing each other with it, right? And so Jacob persisted that Esau should receive his gifts. He explained that seeing Esau's face was like seeing the face of God. Jacob said something similar to that when he was wrestling with the angel, wrestling with God. I have seen God face to face, yet my life has been spared. That's 32:30. And that is, he had lived to tell the tale. In other words, he had lived to tell the tale with God when he wrestled with him, and now he lived to tell the tale with Esau, who he was pretty sure was going to kill him. And so Jacob said to Esau that it was like seeing God's face. Oh, I met God and lived, now I've met you and lived, so he again lived to tell the tale. It appears both brothers had forgiven one another, and they both gained a peace only the restored soul can fully appreciate. Have you ever reconciled with somebody that you've had a problem with, and how much peace that comes with it? I mean, there is a huge amount of peace that comes with that. And that's what they're talking about here. So, last question, last thought that I have. Anybody's welcome to pipe in, say anything that they want. Derek says from the great internet, God desires for us to reconcile relationships, especially with our family. That's exactly right. And this probably made God's heart very, very happy. So how can we believers reflect the compassion of God in the way we act towards others, especially family members? So how do we reflect what we've studied here with Jacob and Esau when we're dealing with others, as far as compassion goes and humility, and especially when we're dealing with family? Because hey, we're all finna go to Thanksgiving, y'all. So what do y'all think? Anybody got any thoughts on that?
Well, maybe you approach the situation different. Maybe you don't come in headstrong, and maybe you come in a little humble.
Yeah, you know, there's some of those. Most of the time, what I found is that usually what you're fighting about ain't worth fighting about anyway, right?
Also, through this, I think it gives us a moment of gives us hope, because we know that with God, anything is possible. So I mean, relationships, whatever. So
yeah, one of the preachers I listened to said something to the effect of, he was talking about why Esau was so forgiving, and he said at the very least Esau realized that none of this stuff was worth hating his brother over. And he did that on his own. He said, but at the very best, God has the power to completely transform somebody, to make them change. And that's what you're saying. That's what that preacher said. That's pretty good stuff. Yeah, my final word on this was we talked about it earlier. We have an expectation of being able to trust our family members, which is one reason why it hurts when they deceive us, because we have an expectation of them of being able to trust them. But the second part of my statement is, shouldn't our family members be able to expect some grace from us, right? So we expect to be able to trust somebody. Shouldn't we be able to expect grace from each other too? I mean, to me that's as important, because we're all humans. We're all going to make mistakes. A lot of times I decide Max did something on purpose to make me mad, when really he probably never even meant to do it. At halftime we're mad at somebody, they don't even know they've done anything to us, because we don't say nothing about it. So I mean, we need to be able to come at it with grace. And so it's that's what I had to say about it. I just feel like, we come at it and we think, well, I should be able to trust my family. Doggone it. Well, you know what? Maybe they should also know that that if for some reason they cross your path, or y'all get crossways with each other, that y'all can all come together and make it right. And it's just like the rest of the world. There's going to be a family members every now and then that you can go to and apologize till the doggone cows come home, and they're not going to forgive you for it. But that's not your problem. If Esau had decided, I'm not going to kill him anymore, but I don't have nothing to do with him, right? And Jacob came to him, and Esau said, I don't have nothing to do with you. Don't want none of your stuff. I'm not going to kill you, all right? Although I really probably still should. Not going to. But what if he had said all that and Jacob had still done his part? I mean, we can only do so much. So
Maybe in next family get together or whatever, you need to invite God in, maybe say a big prayer before it all starts.
no, y'all need to walk in the door and say, I know all of y'all about to make me mad, so I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm fixing to go ahead and give you all grace right now. Right? That's what you say. All right. Anybody else got anything to add? Next week we're going to be talking about Joseph and his brothers. So we're going to jump ahead another however many decades and talk about some dysfunction. Yeah, Dallas can't even touch what Joseph and his brothers went through. You know me, I always loved. I think Joseph is one of those stories that we ought to study every year because it's just so important. Joseph and Daniel are a couple of those Old Testament stories I think we ought to always study every year because it is so close to, the things that we do in real life. Yeah, I know we're not selling our brothers into slavery and all that stuff, but what they're dealing with and the conflicts are so close to what we deal with. And Joseph shows us how to handle it so well. And Daniel shows us how to handle his stuff so well. Sarah said, we fall short. My goodness, we should recognize others do too. Yeah, that's right. You should do that. I agree. All right. Ronnie, would you pray us out, please?
Sure. Lord, thank you for this day and guide us next week. Help us to be humble. Help us to work and realize that sometimes family is trouble and hard, but it's worth it. Lord, guide us in all that we do. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. See y'all next week.